Great.
Well, here's Josh wearing a tie for us. You're muted.
I just came from the awards ceremony.
Oh, yes, nice.
And
excellent.
I was trying to remember the last time I had a tie on, but I think it was I think it was in October.
Josh, do you?
Oh, go ahead, Gisele.
No, well, I was going to introduce him to David. Did you know each other? Is that what you're going to do too?
We've met, yeah.
Okay. So Bridgett, I think we are ready.
All right.
And I will monitor as more people come in.
Okay. Well, thank you all on behalf of myself and my colleague, Gisele Regatao, and the entire journalism department. We really welcome you here. Thank you for coming at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on is today Wednesday? I'm losing track. You know, it really is heartening for me to think that we're all gathered to hear these beautiful stories that our students have written because of my mother's own beautiful story. As many of you know, I wrote a memoir about her called The World According to Fannie Davis. And it's basically the story of my mother's life as a bookie in an underground lottery system that we call the numbers. But really it's the story of how she made a way out of no way. And several months ago, I got an email from a Baruch alum and donor telling me how much he enjoyed the book. And he also had this great idea. He said, since you teach in the journalism department, you teach creative writing, what if we offered a creative writing contest to students who could focus on their experiences during the pandemic? And I love the idea so much because to me, it was another example of making a way out of no way. And so I didn't have to think about it at all. We jumped right into gear and the COVID Diaries contest was born. And not only did this Baruch alum come up with this idea, but he offered to provide the prize money for the contest, which was also just extraordinary. So I really want to stop now and make sure that I express gratitude to the Shulman Family Charitable Fund for providing our first and second and third place winners prize money for this outstanding work that you're all about to hear today. Most of it you're going to hear today. So I'm really pleased that that alum, David Shulman, has agreed to join us today and has also agreed to say a few words. So I thought what I would do by way of introduction is just tell you a little bit about him. He's a graduate from Baruch College, class of 1964. Dr. Shulman has a very long and deep history of making a positive impact on the college and our students. He's a distinguished visiting professor at Baruch and a managing director of Baruch's financial leadership program. If you're not familiar with that, it actually is a program in which he mentors students that are seeking these front office careers on Wall Street. He's also the founder of Baruch's Technology Leadership Development Program. Dr. Shulman's a senior economist emeritus at UCLA Anderson Forecast, and he led a very successful career in business. I'm also going to welcome you to view his blog. It's called Shul Maven, and it discusses everything from economics to finance to politics. And in fact, he actually did a beautiful review of my book, which I found like engaging and particularly illuminating. So I would love to take this opportunity to introduce to all of you David Shulman.
Thank you, Bridgett, and my and the other half of the Shulman Charitable Fund is here with me, my lovely wife, Patricia, and she's really the origin. She's really the origin of the story because we got your book about your mom from the Lex Society.
Mhm.
Came in the mail. I didn't read it right away. I didn't read it. Patricia read it.
Oh,
And she started asking me all these questions, how numbers worked. And since I was a street kid from Queens, I had to give her rudimentary lessons as to how the numbers game worked. But she told me I should read it. So it's her influence, basically. I read the book. I really enjoyed it, and I wrote a review. Now, the thing is, I'm a real dork in the sense is I have over 250 reviews posted up on Amazon right now.
wow.
On that. So I read a lot. I read a lot, and I have another one in process right now. And then when I got it, I said, I just decided as a lark to send you an email, and I figured I used my Baruch email so it wouldn't go into spam right away, and you might be 20% chance if you'd actually open it on it. And then you did, and it was great. And then I called up Lauren, who's on the call. Lauren is the development person for the Baruch College Fund. They say, hey, Lauren, can we do this? I'll put up the money, but can the fund make good on the prize money? And she came back to me, she said, yes. And that's sort of the origin. That's sort of the origin of all this. And I'm so pleased after reading the essays on it, because I think it really brought out, this is what I wanted to see is what the student experience was during this very tragic and crazy and horrible time that we've all been going through. So I'm also so pleased, as I said earlier, for some people who weren't on the call, is I'm ready to do it again next year. If we come up with a topic that we can all agree on, we'll do it again. We'll do it again next year. So, but it's my honor to be here. So thank you.
I just want to quickly thank Patricia Shulman for making your husband read my book. Thank you.
So incredible. It was so incredible. I just loved it.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Well,
As a farm girl from Wisconsin, I really didn't know anything about it.
it's a whole new world, I'm sure.
Bridgett, one more thing is, I don't know where you grew up, where your family came. You didn't grow up, but your family was in Tennessee, in Nashville. I have two kids in Nashville right now. One of whom is around 24th Avenue, and I don't know if that was the old neighborhood or not, because that's a historically.
Yeah,
What?
definitely. That's definitely a familiar area.
Yeah, well, okay.
I spent a lot of summers in Nashville. When you're the child of parents who migrated north,
Yeah.
you know what you're doing every summer.
Exactly.
You're going back south. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Thank you. So I wanted to just remind everyone what the contest really, what the parameters were. We kept it pretty straightforward and simple. We just asked each student to write 600 to 800 word essays, and we gave them this prompt. Beautiful language that Gisele came up with. How has the pandemic affected you or someone close to you? How has it changed your relationships? How has it impacted how you see yourself and the world? So I'm really pleased that given all that these students had going on, a pandemic, their classes, Zoom life, that we got 36 entries from students. And from that, we were able to select our top 3 prizes. But what we also realized is that we had so many strong entries that we decided to add the honorable mentions. And I decided that I would donate the prize money for those particular entries by calling it the Fannie Davis Prize. So I want to just jump right in and start with our first reader. I'm going to introduce all the winners, and most of them are going to share their work. And then afterwards, we're going to have a Q&A that Gisele, you'll kind of monitor that for us, right? Great. So our very first honorable mention goes to Trinity Hollis. Congratulations, Trinity. Trinity will share with us now her essay, which she entitled Breathing Machine.
Hi, Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. So this is the breathing machine. A highlight of the pandemic was my seasonal position at Party City. I assisted customers in selecting Halloween costumes as they grasped for some sense of normalcy. I was a fairy godmother of sorts. I spent shifts fluttering my wings up and down the aisle, wizards, superheroes, nurses, spies, and whatever else they wish to become. My domain was referred to as the Halloween aisle, save for the election gear in the very front facing the automatic doors. Cardboard cutouts of the two presidential candidates greeted customers as they entered the store, reminding them of what's to come when they reach the bottom of their bags of candy. In fact, there was a plethora of merchandise of the then president, not merchandise from his actual campaign, but nonetheless merchandise. There was the aforementioned cardboard cutout, masks of his face hanging beside the scariest of monsters, and squishy keychains of him as a centaur unicorn creature that released a shrill honk when you squeezed it. I couldn't decipher who the target market was. These items were of his likeness, so certainly his supporters would purchase them, but they were distorted enough to attract the kind of person who would buy them ironically, to make fun of him and his appearance. One day, on fairy godmother duty, a daughter and a father sought my assistance. They were looking for an accessory to the daughter's costume. Once I granted the accessory, the father began surveying the costume wall. Maybe I should get a costume for myself, he suggested as he raked through the different hats and masks. I think I want to be something funny, like a Jewish person or a Chinese person. You got a Jewish or Chinese person costume? My wings drained themselves of their psychedelic colors, shriveled onto themselves, detached from my back, and fell to the ground like autumn leaves would from a tree. My dark skin felt browner than it did before. I didn't have to be Jewish or Chinese to know why that was so violently racist. All it took was to know what it feels like to be mistaken for a costume. I didn't find the incompetence of the president at the time to be funny at all. He was dangerously portrayed as one silly man who fell into the presidency, but there are millions of Americans who amplify his ideas. So many well-meaning progressives had large-scale conversations that oversaturated the media about how he emphasized a broken system. Those like me, Black women who understand that this system works the way it's intended, knew we were not being aggressed by accident. His failure to be a leader has exaggerated the pandemic in a way that could have been avoided. Maybe I wouldn't have needed to console my lamenting boyfriend over the phone when his grandmother passed from it. I wouldn't have heard him talk about the ventilator in between his fits of sobbing. I would have been able to hold him with more than just my words. She would have been okay. He wouldn't have ever seen a ventilator. I was powerless, he was helpless. The former president couldn't have cared less about how the pandemic devastated Black Americans. As the winds of October transitioned from playful to harsh, every so often I traveled to the front of the aisle to observe the two cardboard cutouts. It was the first election I was eligible to vote in. Every millennial I've ever spoken to enthused about their first vote. I await my impending choice joylessly. I was implored to vote for a closeted racist who looked significantly less ignorant in contrast to the incumbent. I absorbed the cutouts, knowing I would spend election day like other Black folks, relinquishing my magic and cleaning up the mess of white supremacists. I sublet my skin to the Democratic Party. My body is a vessel for their success without so much of a promise of my safety or happiness. The system works, the machine breathes. Thank you.
That was so incredibly powerful. Thank you. Thank you. Our next honorable mention goes to Andrea Blanco. Congrats, Andrea.
Hi, thank you. That was beautiful, Trinity.
Yeah. Andrea's essay is entitled, a wonderful title, Tacos in the Middle of the Chaos.
Okay. When will my lungs expand inside my ribcage like they once used to? I've been there, still afraid to assume it's over. The vaccine comes as unexpectedly as infection. I'm standing at a bus stop outside a hospital in Queens. The leftover winter cold makes me seek refuge between the glass doors of the building entrance. A nurse approaches me and asks if I want to take one of the 2 doses they have left. 2 patients miss their appointments. I say I do, in the back of my head, wishing it was my hypertensive, immunocompromised mother here in this hospital corner. She's 2,000 miles away in a country that only started vaccinated mid-February. The wait for her will be months. I told the nurse I've had COVID before. She says she did too, no worries. When I call my mom excited to tell her that I got vaccinated, she'll ask, isn't it dangerous to have so much viral load in your body? An excuse for her to keep worrying. Worrying is her love language. Somebody will tell me afterwards I only need 1 dose, that I already have antibodies. I trust the nurse. She walks me through the elevator and then through the lower level of the hospital. It resembles a labyrinth and there are arrows pointing at the place where it happens. It's the end of the day and there is more staff than patients. They're happy. In the ER building next door, many die from COVID. There is a pinch and rub in my shoulder, a 15-minute wait in a separate room. My next appointment is on March 18th. My arm will hurt in a couple of hours, but I'll walk to the bus stop smiling at the randomness of what just happened and miss the bus home. I had COVID, had it later when we sort of understood better it wasn't a death sentence for everybody. During the crazy days of summer and spring, I came home and took off my uniform outside the backyard door. I'd half joked, half confessed I had to wear it because if I stay home, my father would drive me crazy. Washing my body aggressively in the shower, I'd cry on how unjust everything seemed, how surreal. I felt lonelier than ever. I used to hate my 1.5-hour commute to work, but this new reality seemed a new kind of worse. Life suddenly consisted of late night shifts and autopilot at a fast food restaurant, barely breathing through my mask in the heavy summer air, early morning Zoom lessons from bed with my camera off, last minute hurried paper submissions, take out food on day-long naps. When I couldn't sleep for 3 straight nights and the anxiety became too unbearable, I checked myself in the same hospital I would receive the vaccine 5 months later. I stayed a weekend and learned that a COVID test could come back in 30 minutes. Then I went back to work, hung up on my mom every time she cried on the phone that I should quit. A friend questioned if I was essential, and even though I didn't completely believe it, I argued back that as silly as it seemed, if we could allow people to order tacos in the middle of the chaos, then we were giving them back some sense of normalcy, of hope, and that seemed pretty essential. I did enjoy the quietude, the walks around the park coming home at 2 a.m. in the morning, learning lonely rides in the Q24 bus, now passing by sooner and more often, taking pictures of forgotten masks, gloves in the street and empty supermarket aisles for my photography class. I had COVID after working customer service for 7 months, after attending a protest over the summer, when I sort of thought I had to be immune to it, over Christmas. I lied to my parents and told them I was joining my sister for Christmas and ignored their video calls. And while I laid in bed, repeating myself I was young and strong in the middle of a migraine and a cough attack, I realized how lucky it was that my 64-year-old father was away visiting his sick mother and couldn't get infected. I'm grateful for the timing. I had a realization on Christmas Day. It dawned on me that 2020 wasn't a simulation or a bad dream. I saw my sister double park in front of me. My niece and nephew running towards the backyard door and living a Tupperware with turkey and glazed ham inside. Their hands waving goodbye while I watched from afar. I couldn't help the tears at how much I missed them and how fortunate I was to have lived through it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. That is so incredibly moving. Thank you. So our next honorable mention goes to Maria Hakome for her essay, Our COVID Story. Congratulations, Maria. Congratulations.
Maria is here. She's not going to read, but she's here. Just want her to say hi. Can you hear us, Maria?
Say hi.
I know her internet is a
Yes,
little.
my
Oh, there
internet
she
keeps
is.
throwing me in and out, but I just want to say thank you for putting this together and for the time and for choosing me as an honorable mention.
Absolutely. Maria, as Gisele was saying, has opted not to read her essay, which we totally respect and understand. Some of these are quite sensitive topics, and we're just wanting to make sure we acknowledge what an achievement this has been. So again, congrats, Maria. Congrats. Our next third place winner, those were our three honorable mentions. And now our third place winner is Lilia Sorrell, who also has opted not to publicly share her essay. But again, Lilia, we just want to congratulate you on this honor. It was really quite beautiful work. If you wanted to say anything, feel free. I'm not sure if you'd like to or not.
Yes. Well, thank you so much to everyone. And Gisele, Bridgett, thank you for honoring my essay. I'm not the best at reading my work. That's why I write. That's why I decided to choose journalism, because writing is easier for me. I do believe the essay will be published sometime soon. I'll just not be able to read it, but thank you again, David, for allowing students to speak out. And I'm so happy to see so many of my peers in this room today. And I'm just so proud of them.
That's great. Thank you so much. So our second place winner is Caitlyn Cachator, and she has an essay entitled The Arithmetic of Compassion, and she'll be sharing her essay with us now. Congrats, Caitlyn.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so honored to be here, and thank you to my family and my friends for being here as well. The Arithmetic of Compassion. Unable are the loved to die, for love is immortality. Emily Dickinson. One day, this darkness will abate. We'll put away our masks, dab on lipstick in their place, and congregate in large numbers in much the same way we used to take for granted. There will be dancing and revelry, and we will take the lessons we learned from COVID-19, pack them away in a safe inside a box, and secret them in a little-used corner of the collective halls of memory, to be discovered by another generation when they find themselves in the midst of the next pandemic. My dead, your dead, they will be names fleeing from memory, fleeting ghosts of a half-forgotten past. COVID-19 will be printed in neat font on the back of a history book, alongside the number of our dead, like a date on a ledger. The arithmetic of compassion will fail us once more. Zbigniew Herbert, at the end of his poem, Mr. Kajeto Reads a Newspaper, in translation from the original Polish, introduced the idea of the arithmetic of compassion to the literary canon. For 120 dead, you search on a map in vain. Too great a distance covers them like a jungle. They are too many in number. They don't speak to the imagination. Our dead, when they depart from us in large, unwieldy numbers, are rendered mere abstractions. One cannot mourn for a world gone to ground. Grief is too strong an emotion to project into the number of people who have lost their lives during this global health crisis. Pity doesn't do justice to those who are still battling for their lives in hospital wards and intensive care units, nor do platitudes assuage the pain of the father who has lost his daughter, or the grandson who misses his grandmother keenly. Words cannot do justice to our dead, or those who have lost loved ones. There will never be a memorial large enough, nor a poem beautiful enough, nor a song that lingers long enough to encompass the breadth and depths of the lost years, the moments that never were, the vacant seats at family tables. Yet we are human, so we try. We elegize our dead. We pin obituaries into our diaries alongside photographs that have faded with time. We keep the memories of those we loved and lost close at hands, and closer still to our hearts. We build a shrine in the cathedral of our minds, and we keep tiny gems of moments there as offerings to our sacred dead. But these shrines, those memories, cannot endure unaided. We must wrangle them onto the page into audio files, onto video recordings, and integrate them into the slipstream of our history, where so many voices echo fleetingly across the ages, some longer than others. It is only by writing about our dead and making art about them, telling not only the world of today about them, but also keeping their memory alive for future generations, that we can honor them. Almost 3.5 million people have died from COVID-19 at the time of this reading. Each of those individuals had a story, a history, a life beyond their number amongst the rank and file dead. Most of them left loved ones behind, people who miss and mourn them. All of them, no matter how old or how young, how feeble or how fortified, how powerful or how poor, all of them mattered and continue to matter. One day this darkness will abate, there will be dancing and revelry, but we must still remember those who we have lost, those who are missing, those whose seat at the table is vacant. We must hold that ember of grief inside of us and cradle it in our hands, even if it burns our fragile flesh. It is only by remembering this time of mourning that we might overcome the obstacle Herbert spoke of in his poem. Our inability to compute the arithmetic of compassion and the failings of our collective imagination cannot be permitted to eclipse the ultimate truth of our shared humanity, nor can they be allowed to erase the stories of those we have lost over the course of the pandemic. Yes, we must move on, and yes, we will dance and drink and be merry, but we shall do so only after pouring a libation to our dearly departed, and when we dance and sing out for all the world to hear, it shall be in their names. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlyn. That was beautiful. Thank you. And now we have our first place winner, Rosa Guevara. Congratulations, Rosa. She's going to share her essay with us entitled La Casa de Capones, the House of Stamps. Rosa.
Hello, thank you for that. Swipe, swipe, swipe. As I enter the pin to our food stamps card, here we go again. The worker at Trader Joe's looks at me and my mom in discomfort. Is it because we're people of color shopping in the middle of a pandemic? Is it our food stamps card that triggers you? Or is it that you're jealous of our card? Could it be both? Mija, como que nos vieron feo, which translates to, they kind of gave us an ugly look, right? My mother shared with me as we stepped out. I wanted to give her a hug because we were eating off the state of New York to feed our stomachs. How could her privileged daughter let her mother go through this? As we took a break in Union Square, my mother was already planning her breakfast for tomorrow's workday. She cleans houses for a living. She's a domestic worker. And she has continued to work to bring bread to the table. She's been working for the same Orthodox Jewish families for the past 23 years. A pandemic was not going to stop her, despite the protocol she often heard from Telemundo. My mother suffers from diabetes and high blood pressure. She's working to at least afford her medications. That is more important to her than to wear a face mask. The least she can do for herself is not die anonymous as a Latina woman. She has been the only one working since my father, who has been in the construction field for the past 24 years, was laid off. Tears streamed down her eyes as she sat with me in the park. I think your father is depressed. This I knew. I had my own kind of pain, but my parents were more important than my own sanity. I often asked myself, why God, do we have to suffer? We headed back home as we watched the news. I saw my father's anger. He pays his taxes, yet receives no kind of assistance. No unemployment, no stimulus checks, no small compensation. Before I had been planning to do the bare minimum for my parents, planned to help my father get a Social Security card. The pandemic ruined it for us. The pandemic helped us starve, helped us lie, and helped us be ashamed of our food insecurities. The pandemic ruined us. I think of the number of times Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio stated to the media, New York is a sanctuary city. We will always protect our undocumented immigrants. They failed, millions of undocumented immigrants. They are the reason so many are currently on hunger strikes and why many have gone out into the streets of New York. Get Food New York City became our staple in our household. The fresh vegetables we received from the food banks, the fruit we discovered like the golden kiwi, the snacks like the bear grain crackers, and the days my mother would yell at me, "No te olvides de pedir la comida." I soon noticed other people in my building are also ordering the food packages. And then I felt embarrassed about it. However, I also felt less embarrassed about it too. We often talked about the good, bad days based on the packages we have all received. Today, my father's mental health is much better. My brother, who is autistic, understands the meaning of a pandemic. My brother lives in fear, and we still receive no funding from New York. We continue to swipe our food stamp card at the cheapest supermarket, Trader Joe's. I continue to have hope in the food banks, as if it worries me when donors no longer donate, because I've seen some of those food banks close. For now, my mother and father will continue living this life of maltreatment in secrecy. They would not dare let us tell their kids and tell us the truth. They want us to be better than the privileged people who have rude kids. And mom wouldn't dare tell us about the pain she feels in her knees, her waist, her pockets, her wallet, and in her heart. To live the American dream is only a wish she wants to grant. For now, we will all bite down on our lips, como nos duele en la casa de cupones.
Thank you, Rosa. That was so moving and so powerful. Thank you. So now I'm going to actually hand it over to my colleague, Gisele, who has some really wonderful news about where you can actually read these beautiful essays.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, everybody. This was moving. I was tearing up here. Thank you for your submissions and for your beautiful reading right now. So I just posted a link. The 4 essays that were read here are up on Dollars and Cents, which is the online magazine of the journalism department. Thank you, my colleague Vera Haller, who did this beautiful presentation. And Andrea took this gorgeous picture of her father. I think it's really incredible. And Rosa of her mom's cooking. And Lilia's essay hopefully will be there also in a few days. So I think, shall we just move to questions, Bridgett?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make this pretty informal. If you guys have specific questions to each one of them, you can post it in the chat or you can just unmute yourselves. I have questions. I always have questions, but I don't want to be the one speaking. Anyone has any questions?
Or comments.
Or comments. I guess I can start just to break the ice. Rosa, I thought it was so amazing that you started with that scene at Trader Joe's, the cheapest supermarket where I also shop. And I thought it was such a beautiful way to start the story. Can you tell us why you decided to open with that scene? Kind of how that happened, and yeah, just kind of that choice.
So I mentioned how my mom, she is she's a domestic worker, and she particularly works for the Jewish families. And one of the things that she would often mention is that she'll say, like, my boss, she went to Trader Joe's and she bought this seasoning and you have to smell it. And she would take me and my brother to Trader Joe's all the time. And then we started to notice that it's all one brand. So we were kind of like, oh, like we don't have to really pick and choose from Goya or from like another brand. It's literally all one brand. So it was much more easier for us, and it was definitely affordable. So I think I always have like, there's always a special place for Trader Joe's, and I pass it down to also my partner. I always say like, we should go to Trader Joe's to do this and that. And they often, I feel like I pass that down because I have that relationship, and it resonates with my mom too. So that's why I wanted to start it with it at first. So I feel like, why not begin with a place where my mom has been working for like literally forever, for like 26 years. She's been working for this family. So I feel like why not bring that legacy down by writing this essay?
That's great. But I was upset that they looked kind of down on you guys, because Trader Joe's, they tend to be super friendly and they pride themselves for being like a friendly. So I was like, what's up with that, Trader Joe's?
Yeah, I was disappointed myself. I think it might just have to do with the fact that this person was not someone that I can at least feel comfortable with, or at least like I can like we can resonate with each other. And I think that mostly has to do with the fact that it just made us uncomfortable. I think just talking about it makes me a little uncomfortable. So whenever we kind of just brush it off nowadays, because I'm from the Bronx. So if we were to use it right here in the corner store, nobody really cares, because everyone is really kind of like, especially now with how things are going. But when we go down to the city, we do get it like sometimes a different look, and it's very rare. It's not really all the time, but yeah, that's just like one part of it.
I hear you. Thank you, Rosa. Well, Beth Harpas has a great question. I don't know if you all have met Beth Harpas. She's the new marketing person for Baruch Weissman. She's incredible, and a former journalist and editor at the AP for many years. So I'm not surprised she came up with a great question to all of you. Curious if the students who wrote about their families shared their essays with them. Always hard for writers to write about their lives. Who wants to go first? Let's go in order. Trinity, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I answered in the chat already that I didn't even think about that. I sort of like mentioned my boyfriend and what he went through, and I like completely, I don't know, I didn't even think to like tell him or even ask him like, hey, is this like, I don't know, I just sort of went along with it, which is really interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Does he know about it now?
No, I think I should tell him at some point.
Okay, that's funny. How about you, Andrea? I know you have to tell your dad, because when I asked for a picture, I think that's the moment you told him, right?
That picture is actually from last year.
Oh, I see.
But I showed him and he was like, wow, okay, I don't know how to feel about this. My parents, both of them, they don't really read a lot in English. My mom only knows Spanish, so she kind of knows that I wrote about her. She doesn't know what I wrote about her.
I see. How about Caitlyn? Yours is more about the collective loss, but like I don't know if any that applies to you if you talk to a family member or anything like that.
It wasn't that personal, but I did get the opinions of my family members. I sent it to my mom. My great aunt Jo does not have a computer, so I sent her a letter containing the essay, and she, she took a look at it. She was happy. She was proud.
And I understand your mom is here?
Yes, she is. She's under the same name as me. She's under Caitlyn Cachator.
That's so nice. Welcome, Caitlyn's mom. How about you, Rosa?
I didn't tell my parents at all when I first submitted this. I'm pretty sure you and Bridgett were aware, but like I sent it in like at 2 a.m. And I remember doing homework and I was like, oh my God, it's the essay. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wing it and see what happens. But I didn't tell them until I think I was going through a bad time, and I had to like share some good news with them. And I just told them like, hey, in good news, like I got this and that. And they were really, really happy. My mom, like, she was super proud of me. My parents, unfortunately, they don't know how to read. And just like Andrea, they only read Spanish. So my dad would only just collect the quotes here and there. But I'm hoping to one day like read it to them and kind of have it like translated to another to basically Spanish, because when I was in community college I did the same thing. Like I wrote my first article dedicated to them in Spanish, so I'm hoping to in the future write an actual like essay in Spanish and just to actually read it to them so that they can understand what I'm saying.
Do you write in Spanish?
Yes, I do.
Well, if you want to translate it, we will publish on Dollars and Cents in Spanish too.
Wow.
Right, Vera and Emily? Because we've done that before.
Thank you.
I was just typing into the chat to say the
Yeah.
exact same thing. Gisele. So we would be
Send it in.
absolutely delighted to publish it, a translation if you would like to.
Yeah. There are some great comments here, I think, from people. But any other questions for the winners? David?
I have a, what year are in, juniors, seniors, sophomore? I'm just curious of the winners, what are you graduating this year or next year or the year after? I'm just curious.
Let's go around and let each one say. I'm going to do it according to where you are in your little squares on my screen. So Lilia?
Yes, I have one more year left at Baruch, so I'm hoping to graduate next spring.
And Andrea?
I'm graduating this semester. Thank you so much.
Oh, and tell us about what you're up to next.
So I'm scared still to say this out loud because I feel like it's not gonna come true, but I've been hired as the name of the position is as a trainee by the Daily Mail.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. And let's see. And next is Trinity.
Yeah, I just finished my sophomore year, so I'm gonna be a rising junior until the year after that. I hope to graduate.
Awesome. Rosa.
So I'm going to be a senior this upcoming semester.
That's beautiful. And Caitlyn?
I'm graduating tomorrow, and I am hoping to attend a digital humanities master's program after university.
Wonderful. Did I skip anyone?
I think Maria is no longer here because, yeah, her internet is dropping out.
Right. Okay. So are there other questions in the chat? I too have a question, but of course we're trying to encourage. We don't want to dominate. You know how teachers are.
Oh, wait, Emily has a question.
Oh, great question.
Was this the first time for any of you doing this kind of memoir style writing? Great question. Who wants to go first? Have you written about your own experience before? Let's see, I'll start with Caitlyn.
Okay, I haven't really done a lot of writing in memoir, in terms of memoir. I've been more focused on poetry and prose. I worked on a space opera court romance trilogy a while back, and I've been working on my poetry for the past few years very diligently. So this was pretty much the first time that I achieved any acclaim for my memoir writing.
Oh, nice. Nice start.
Thank you.
Lilia, how about you? Oh, Lilia?
Okay, sorry, I had issue with my computer. So I did write kind of, narrative writing piece back when I moved to the US. I moved to the US when I was 18. And so I wrote a piece about that and my experience moving. But otherwise I'm focused on like news articles. So it's really not common for me to write about myself. But I did enjoy the challenge and it was really interesting to say the least.
Yeah, and Lilia is an excellent journalism student. She has several pieces published on Dollars and Cents. How about you, Trinity?
This might sound weird, but I write about myself a lot because I love fiction and I love creative writing, but I really lack the imagination to make things up. So I sort of like put a lot of prose into like nonfiction and like personal experiences.
Good for you, brave. Rosa, how about you?
Did you get everyone?
Now, Rosa, how about you?
This wasn't my first time. I started back in community college. I took a creative nonfiction course, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Just like Trinity said, I like to write about myself. I think it's because I'm a Libra. I don't know, but
I'm a Libra too.
Oh, but I really do like it a lot. And I feel like because since I used to be a journalism major, in community college, it was like a way for me to escape from the news. So I was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna use this as a space to kind of like share my friends, like what they're going through with their permission, of course, and also with like my own personal experience. So I kind of found that as an escape, and I really liked it a lot.
That's nice. Andrea, how about you?
Yeah, I think most of my electives in college were nonfiction writing, creative nonfiction. I actually took Professor Davis class this semester. I really enjoyed talking about experiences that I've had in the past. So
nice. But Andrea is also a great journalism student. Her latest piece was just published on Dollars and Cents. Josh, the one she did for our class, was just published today. Adelina has a great question. Was it difficult to figure out what to focus on and what to cut out to stay within the word count? Anyone want to take that on? Did you have to do a lot of editing?
I found it difficult to just stay in the limits of the word count, not because of the lower bound, but because of the upper bound. I would have written more. I would have loved to write more, but it had to be concise. And as for the first part of the question, it wasn't that difficult to figure out what to focus on because I knew I wanted to do something that was related to an elegy in some format, to sort of eulogize the dead and just pay homage to them and give honor and respect to them, all of those we've lost.
Nice. Anyone else? Did you have to kind of kill your babies as you were trying to stay within the word limit? Or did you have to stretch it? Some students who are journalism students, sometimes they can't write longer because they're so used to writing short.
I know for me, I wrote it like I had the idea in my mind for a very long time, and I decided to write it at the very last minute. I was like, I'm not gonna place in this contest, but at least I wrote something. At least I submitted, and so I was really surprised I placed because I felt like I didn't submit a good essay. I didn't really like it that much because it felt kind of rushed, but I still really wanted to do it. So it was more so about like hitting the lower word limit, and just trying to like get something out there. But yeah.
But I love that you said, Trinity, that you thought about it a lot. So you were really working on it the whole time, That's the thing about writing. We write in our heads before we ever put it down, on paper, as they say. Yeah. I had one quick question. If there are there more, or can I ask this one?
I don't think so. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just really curious what any of you felt about the process and how it surprised you, or did you find it cathartic? What did it do for you? Was it different from what you thought it would be?
can I go? I think I didn't realize that I needed to put all of these thoughts and emotions and feelings in one place until I started writing. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I think it was a process that I made peace with a lot of the things that happened during this hard, difficult year. And I am so grateful that I had that chance.
Thank you, Andrea. Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
I guess I'll share. I think it also opened the fact that, I wasn't alone with this food insecurity. And I wasn't alone because I started to notice that CUNY was actually sharing a lot for students to apply for food stamps. And I was like, oh, wow, like people are actually doing this and people are actually want to apply for this program. And I think it just reminded me that I wasn't alone. I shouldn't be a part of the program. As a kid myself, I was a WIC kid too, and all of my siblings were, and people are often ashamed of it. And I think it just has to do with the fact that it's not often a topic that people don't share with their friends. And I think it also opened the door by allowing me, when I first shared my essay with my partner, to kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going through. I've never talked to you about this, but this is what I'm going through. This is what I have. And, they understood. And it's just a wonderful feeling because a lot of students are literally going through the same thing. And it's just not often spoken about.
Thank you for sharing that. That is absolutely the power of writing, right? That's its power. That's its magic. Gisele, did you want to say any closing remarks?
No, not me. You go ahead, Bridgett.
Well, I just want to also, again, thank David and his wife for your generosity. I hope that you can see how valuable this has been for students and how cathartic and how moving really it is to think about being able to process what you've experienced and realizing other people can empathize and are going through something similar. That's, again, as someone who's devoted my life to writing, I feel that it's the great connector. It does as much for the writer as it does for the person reading the work. So I'm quite moved by all of these students' essays, and grateful to each of you for your bravery. So I just want to say congrats to those who are graduating. Congrats to all of you for getting through this this entire year of education on Zoom and the challenge that took. And also, I hope everyone has a really restful and peaceful and invigorating summer. Yeah. And those of you who are not graduating, you heard it here first. We'll have another context next year. So that's exciting, right? Yeah.
I guess I'm just going to say keep writing because you're very good at it. And this is very an amazing skill you have. And it was the highlight of our semester to read all these essays. Keep at it.
Yeah. Congrats again. You're all winners. Congrats. All right. Well, thank you all for showing up and participating today. This was quite lovely, a wonderful way to end out the semester and to move into the holiday weekend. So again, thank you guys. And look for the essays on Dollars and Cents. They're beautiful when you read them as much as they are when you hear them. So thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
David, did you want to say some closing remarks? I'm so sorry.
Me? No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. No.
This is exactly what I envisioned when I sent you the email. I wanted people to tell their stories, because memory fades over time. It's much better to tell your story contemporaneously. And I think this is exactly what I envisioned.
Oh,
it's a beautiful document, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, David. Bye, Patricia.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again, David. Bye, Adelina.
I think this is Caitlyn's mom.
Oh, bye, Caitlyn's mom.
I might just disconnect her.
Okay, she may not know how to. All right.
Okay. Woo.
And I think we're still recording.
Oh yeah, shall I stop the recording?
Yeah, perhaps.
Hold on.